Perfect. We are being recorded, which means that we can kick off this webinar, last one of the day, last one of the week, and not last one of the year, because we this year upgraded to a full month of webinars, European Education Month of the ELNE network. This is, the second year that we are having this initiative, and we are very happy to have had now 3 days of fantastic webinars, high-level representatives, practitioners, academics, parents, students joining us and having an interactive conversation here, working together to promote and support collaborative leadership in education. I would like to warmly welcome not only our great speakers today from the lead partners of the ELNE network, but also our attendees that are coming on a Thursday afternoon, which feels already almost like the weekend. So thank you very much for being here. This webinar will be recorded and will be uploaded along with all of the other 35 webinars that we are having this European Education Month 2025 to the ELNE website. And just like we did in the opening ceremony, we will be hearing from the school leaders, from the teachers, from the parents, from the students, and from the school managers on the work that ELNE is doing and the reflections about this European Educational Leadership Week initiative that we have had. I just wanted to thank everyone that has been involved in the work, in the organization of these 3 days, particularly since it's the closing ceremony of the week, especially, and do a very brief recap. We began on Tuesday this week with an opening ceremony where we had representatives from the European Commission presenting the Union of Skills. We heard what were the priorities of these different stakeholder groups for education. We are looking at the education of the future, and as we are working on ELNE on the dimensions of collaborative leadership, we are also working particularly this year on school resilience. And we have had very interesting, not only discussions, but also showcases of practices and research. And we are just now coming from a webinar with very renowned academics and experts of educational leadership, where we have been talking about how to bridge this gap between research, practice, and policy, how to have a greater impact, and how to break the silos to make sure that we reach a wider audience and inspire others not only to transfer these fantastic practices, but also to scale them up. So, as I mentioned before, very short recap of the week, and the stars of this webinar are the different representatives of the stakeholders of the ELNE lead partners. And I would like to directly give the word to the European Trade Union Committee for Education with Jelmer Evers here, and ask you, Jelmer, what are your reflections of this 3-day week that we have had this year, and how is the work of the ELNE network important for the teachers?
So first of all, thanks for all the hard work to everybody involved. I know it was a lot of work. And I enjoyed the conversation that I was part of a lot, actually. I think it was these were high quality discussions going on. And I also think that is a reflection of how we should work, different stakeholders together, and then, you know, finding commonalities. And actually there are quite a few, I think. I think the quality also had to do with the, it was also linked to the upcoming Union of Skills and Teachers agenda that was part of the conversation. So it's actually linked to upcoming important policy initiatives, I think, which are going to have a huge impact. And then linking that back to practice is very important. Of course, there's going to be a lot more this month, and all of our members are going to have individual webinars, upcoming webinars in the coming weeks, which I'm also really looking forward to. But I thought the framing it in a broader policy area and policy initiatives is actually very important, because if you really want to shift the conversation and move the conversation, you need to find a way to link the practice to the policy. And we're not that good in education to making those kind of linkages. And I actually thought that some of these conversations deserved a bigger. There was already good audience, but I think it should be part of a wider audience. I think there should be more school leaders and more teachers, more parents, more students involved in these kind of conversations. So I think that's sort of like where we, for us, it's a good start. Uh, I think it's also important just to disseminate the work, and if you produce a lot, then it's also important that you follow up on it. And it's also good to evaluate all the work that's going on. So after this month, it's also good to see where where do we want to be in the next couple of years. And I think one of the issues that were identified also by colleagues is that school leadership is not really high on certain agendas. And I think that's a fallacy. So there needs to be really, we need to pay attention to school leaders, they on professional development, their support, remuneration, etc. And they were not really part of the initiatives that were presented, and that's, I think, a gap. I've been a teacher, and I had the privilege actually of working mostly with really good school leaders, and they really made me into a better teacher. And it was actually that I found out that was not the case in many other schools. They're like, huh? I was quite surprised, and I really noticed the difference a good school leader can make. And I would say that you're worth your weight in gold. Maybe we should, and that should also be reflected in the salary. Um, yeah, I think for us, I think it's good to keep on identifying good practices, and that's what this has done, because we're delving into national, and people are actually showing their work. That's important, but it's up to us. I think that is our role, to make sure that these are also translated into policies. And we might do some more work on, well, having more critical reflections actually, and having more critical discussions coming from the workplace. I just came from one also when we organized this one on a global level at UNESCO, and there was also some really critical reflections on the gap between policy and actually what school leaders actually need. So yeah, so I'm really positive. I'm actually I enjoyed it a lot. So I'm actually also personally going to do my best to disseminate all the work and really show people to these webinars that we've already recorded. That it's not just a one-off, but it's a valuable resource that we can use. So yeah, thanks. So I'm at the end of the week, I'm actually quite optimistic.
Good to hear that you're optimistic, Jelmer, and that you enjoyed yourself this week. And special thanks to ETUC for all the work that they have put on. And actually, lots of the webinars that are coming up in the next couple of weeks are from national members of ETUC, some of them in their national languages as well, and bringing together these stakeholders at national level and really working on having this impact, right, on the policy, as you were saying. And to fill this gap that Jelmer mentioned with the school leaders here, we have the European School Heads Association. So Petra, please, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you so much. And well, there were a lot of thank yous, so I can only confirm this. The Educational Leaderships Network Europe, that's what we pretend to be together. And I use the word pretend because a leaderships network, for me, it means that you actually show leadership. And we are in this process of showing leadership. And as Jelmer said, there were interesting discussions because when you show leadership, first you have to talk with all the partners in your field, and then you will find, as we did, that we don't have the same visions on a lot of things. And that's natural because the perspective of a parent or a student can be totally different from the employer or the school head or the teacher. So the Leaderships Network is a network that is in dynamics by itself, and we are discussing a lot about a lot of things. And sometimes that makes me feel like, are we moving somewhere? But in fact, that's exactly what the movement is, because I think on European level, we have not been in organized structures enough to talk with all the important stakeholders in this field to get somewhere. We are all a kind of in our own memberships fields in our islands. There are several also European arenas, and there are the social partners, and there is this direction, that direction, and everybody chooses where we can, or we think that we can perform best. And that's interesting, because becoming a true leaderships network means that we have to get closer to each other, and actually we may have to split two things. The vision on education itself, where education of the future leads us, how education will transform, and artificial intelligence, of course, is one of the big movements. But in this week, we also discussed collaboration with corporate organizations. Is that allowed? Yes or no? Are there actually borders at Europe, or should we broaden our horizons? There are a lot of questions, but I think the discussion on where we go with education is a one where we can find each other, and where this week has put in a lot of new ideas, dynamics, and has given us a lot of feedback. And then there's the other field. What does this mean for educators? And that is a different group, because educators are not only the education, formal education, but also educators in the whole lifelong learning after. And the ELNE network kind of focuses on formal education mostly, because that's where the funding of all the other education, lifelong education, is actually done. So the impact on educators is maybe a different dialogue than what we want to do with education itself. And then the field again will become very interesting, because our students, educators, traditionally not, but in the new ways of working together and learning together, and actually being a professional learning organization, and the technical advancements that come towards us, it may be the students that are learning, telling us how education should be done. And same for the parents, which have always been a party around the school in the ecosystem. But parents are the first educators, and the connection, now that the world is changing so fast, is really up to us, leadership, to be made. So I think this week, this kind of week, is very important. And actually, I think a week or a month may not be enough, or may not be the good structure, because I think on several places I have seen policymakers, and maybe it could be good to have 2 or 3 short periods in the year that we have more regular discussion all together with also the policymakers of the European Union, instead of only once a year with this network of leaders. So actually, after a week like this, instead of finding answers, I find a lot of new challenges. I think that the world is moving faster than education is doing. It's my biggest worry that once policy, and I see this kind of things in European projects as well, once things are on paper on how it needs to be, we are not so flexible to adapt, because, yeah, we said we do this. And if the world by now tells us to do actually that, then policies usually are very slow to move with us. So this week, we also use words like knocking on the door or bamming it open. I think when it comes to renewing education, we should be bold, because the speed is high and we cannot allow ourselves to be slow. And I must say this week was everything but not slow. So I'm very proud on the achievement we had together, and I hope to see all of us again very soon. And I really hope that we can establish a real leadership's connection towards policymakers, but also towards ourselves. Thank you.
Thank you, Petra. And yes, many more questions sparked this week, not only conceptual, but also as well lessons learned for the leadership and collaboration within the network, like you are mentioning. And I think that we will be really moving forward in a more structured way or more impactful way in the upcoming years, I'm sure. And I would like to give the word now to Elena Odiseos, the Vice President of the European Parents Association, to hear from their side as well.
Yes, hello from me as well. Thank you for the invitation as part of the ELNE network, and we're very happy to join you on this exciting week. So on behalf of Parents Association, thank you, ELNE team, for giving us the chance to participate, to communicate, to listen to all the experts and decision makers during this week, and also to exchange opinions and ideas with other stakeholders, all crucial to the field of educating children. What became clear from what we see in this week is that if we want to move forward, we need to work harder on the field of collaboration between all pillars of education. This is a crucial milestone for the future. Maybe this is the time to restart, to rethink, to reconsider, to reorganize the education system of Europe. Maybe it's time to build a common basis, a guidance for all state members from where they can build their own national education systems. Some of us do it good, some do it better, and some others need to invest more. And as Socrates, the great Greek philosopher, said, "Agro old, always learning." So let's learn from each other to be able to help tomorrow's European citizens to get the best of today's and tomorrow's knowledge. We must invest more in education, not just in words or documents, but in action. Decision making at the higher EU levels doesn't always align with what teachers, educators, and parents face at the grassroots level of education. We don't need more theoretical experiments involving the private sector, as we heard during the opening event. The results presented indicate that students from countries like Japan and the USA or other countries achieve significantly better outcomes than children in Europe. And this is something that we must take into serious consideration. Teachers and educators' curricula should be enhanced and they should be motivated to enter and remain in the profession. Being an educator is not only a profession, it's a calling and so much more. People who choose this path because they are passionate about it should have the means to do their job effectively and meet their personal needs as well. This could help address the teachers' shortage in Europe. And then technology is here to stay and it's accelerating rapidly. We all agree that it can be a valuable tool in education, but it can also create significant problems, causing stress for teachers who are less comfortable with the new technologies. And it also affects children's physical and mental health. And not all parents are equipped to monitor, protect, or advise their children about its negative effects. Therefore, both parents and teachers need to educate themselves and educate children from an early age on how to use technology to their advantage, not against them. And above all, ethics should never be left out of this important equation. So, on behalf of Parents Association, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Elena, and especially that message about digital. It really brings me back to the webinar we had on the first day with actually with the students, with the parents, and with the teachers on. I think it was called from digitalization in education to education-led digitalization. And that was for sure one of my highlights of the week, and we are looking forward to have the recording to continue sharing. And thank you so much for these words now. I'd like to give the floor now to Albert Janssens from the Organizing Bureau of European School Students Union to hear from the students' perspective.
Yeah, I'm also going to start out by saying thank you very much for the floor, and thank you so much to the ELNE team and all the partners for organizing this week. And then maybe most importantly, thank you to all of the participants who are here. First, I'm going to start. I want to reflect a bit about what power ELNE has, because the education sector is built up in these silos. You're seeing you have the educators, you have the leaders, you have the students, and we're not always that great at, as Jelmer also said, at working together across these silos. And I think ELNE has the power to break down these silos, and then we can meet and collaborate in this very, very important context of running our schools. We are all here because there cannot be real collaboration in guiding and directing education at the school, local, regional, national, and European levels. If we're not all involved, especially the learners themselves, they are, after all, who we are all here for. And then about digitalization, it's for way too long, digitalization of education has been driven by outside actors. It's been driven by the digital economy. It's been driven by the companies. It's been driven by a politician who wants their education systems to seem modern without any sort of consideration for what role digitalization will actually play, and how it will affect the work that all of the actors in the schools are actually working, how they're working. So while we are integrating digital skills and infrastructures and tools in educational systems is super important, it's also important to empower both students and educators to safely and responsibly use the technologies and navigate these environments. And this shift cannot happen without a comprehensive engagement of all of the actors in education. So we have to bring the teachers, the parents, students, and the educational leaders together to work on this and to take a common stance, because that's sort of the only way we can push back in this policy we're currently seeing in education, where we're changing the educational systems without much regard for how it actually affects the day-to-day running of the schools. And this is also leading to one of the overarching mission of OBESU, which is to ensure that all students are acknowledged and engaged as relevant stakeholders and empowered to be a part of the decisions that impact their lives, both as young people, as learners, and maybe most importantly, as citizens. The educational system is the last stop before we release young people into the wild. They go off to work and they go off to higher education. So especially in secondary education, it's the last bastion to prepare people to engage in democracy. It's the last bastion to prepare people to engage in the labor market. And we need to prepare everyone on an equal level, so we don't create an A and a B team, where in some countries or in some regions you're super great at using digital tools and you know how to work everything, you know how to work the world in 2025, and then you have in places where this is not the case. So we also have to make sure that we go together as a common movement and ensure that every single student in Europe gets the same opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Albert. Completely agree with you. And hopefully ELNE can be a big part of this effort on ensuring equal access to quality education. And lastly, we go with the European Federation of Education Employers. Daniel, please give us your reflections.
Thank you, Sylvia. I think indeed this month and this week was really timely done. And it was timely done because, of course, colleagues from the European Commission are, with the entire agenda of the Union of Skills, are trying to change the entire governance of employment and education policies. And ELNE, I think one word that was not stated with the previous interventions was an ecosystem. It's a network that brings together the ecosystem of some people would say basic education, others would say formal education. You can also call it foundational or fundamental education. Those stakeholders that are responsible primarily for the school education. And I think it actually has managed to get its place in the European arena. There's multiple networks focusing on different things, whether it's lifelong learning or digital education or so on. Whereas ELNE brings the focus on the school education. And one success that ELNE has is that actually it gives us this platform to talk to each other, to exchange, and maybe in the future as well to look for synergies when it comes to policies, if this is indeed what the partners would want. We know that indeed many new things are coming up. We will have to be prepared for that. And indeed, ELNE has opened us this opportunity to not only get to know each other, but kind of establish a working relationship. And I feel like this is a biggest added value of it. Then, of course, I wanted to thank the team. the partners and the team specifically. We as EFI, we have the privilege of being the secretariat of that network primarily, and I can tell you that our team is really, I think, exhausted after this week. I wanted to thank them for all the technicalities that has been done, all the preparations. It really is much more work than it seems. And I feel like they really, we are of course meeting and we are of course enjoying this, but the hard work that has been put in all this is really immense. And then finally, I wanted to thank colleagues from the European Commission, because it is the European Commission that allows us to have it, to really to have that platform of exchange. I really hope that colleagues from the Commission also find it useful for us to learn from these exchanges, because one thing is to listen to our separate positions on different things and different initiatives, and another thing is to see what the interaction is and what comes from a common interaction between us, which I think can be really much more constructive than just individually kind of having our statements heard and individually kind of lobbying in our own accord. So just wanted to also thank colleagues from the Commission for this funding opportunity, for letting this happen. The work isn't done yet. We still have many events within the education month. That was, let's say, the highlight of that month, but we continue this discussion on different themes. So I think that maybe we just have to continue that, and then of course afterwards probably we will have a moment of reflection of what and how shall we do the following years. We still have at least 2 years of these reunions or meetings or webinars within the structure of this project. So of course afterwards we will have a moment also of reflection of what and how we can do and what we can do better together as well. So I'm really looking forward to it, and again, a great thank you for your time, for your commitment, for all the interesting discussions that we have had and the work that has been put.
Yes, thank you, Daniel. And before we conclude and we liberate everybody after this exhausting week, not only for us, the team, which is right behind me. So on behalf of all of them, I tell you that we did enjoy it, yes. But we are happy to put a bow on it and go on to the rest of the month. I want to stress, yes, we continue to have webinars the next 2 weeks, organized by partners, members of the members as well. So at national level, as I mentioned before, we have some webinars in French, in Polish, I believe. We are touching upon the post-disaster schools, climate change, racialized teachers, the impact of mass media in education, and many more topics. So I invite you all to go to the website and register for those webinars that interest you. I am also happy to announce that tomorrow the ELNE journal, first ELNE journal of this second year of ELNE, will be published, featuring the best practices and research that we have received on this topic of school resilience. And you can also see there the 3 webinars that we had this week, one on Tuesday, one on Wednesday, and one today, with these authors of the best practices, the best inspiring showcases, we call them. So stay tuned for that tomorrow. And I saw a question in the chat as well: when can we expect the recordings of these webinars? Our team behind me is already editing and putting the cover for all of them, and we expect to have them posted on the YouTube channel and on the website next month. And lastly, we will be meeting in person in Brussels on 14th of May for the ELNE Annual Conference of 2025, Dimensions of Collaborative Leadership, Exploring Together. So we hope to see you there. And unless any of the speakers here want to say a final goodbye, final words, I will put the bow on the European Educational Leadership Week 2025 here. And yes,